Admiral Jake Morrison stood alone on the bridge of the UNS Terra's Wrath, watching the largest fleet in galactic history approach through the darkness of space. 3,000 alien ships moved toward him like a metal storm, their hulls gleaming, with weapon systems and shield generators. Behind Morrison's single ship, the rest of humanity's fleet waited in formation. 200 vessels, each one a masterpiece of human engineering. But today, they would not be needed. Today, one ship would teach the galaxy a lesson that would never be forgotten. Enemy fleet is entering weapons range, Lieutenant Claire Johnson reported from her station. All ships are charging their main guns. They're preparing to fire everything they have at us. Morrison nodded calmly. Signal the human fleet. All ships are to maintain position and observe. Do not engage unless I give the order. Supreme Commander. Zrath stood on the command deck of the Zephyrian flagship Destiny's Edge, staring at the single human ship that dared to face his armada. Around him, the combined fleets of 13 species spread across space like a metal ocean. One ship, Zrath laughed, his voice echoing through the bridge. The humans send one ship against 3,000. They have finally gone insane. Captain Danny Wright, now commanding the human battlecruiser UNS Defiance, watched from a safe distance as Morrison positioned the Terra's Wrath between the alien fleet and Earth. Danny had seen human weapons destroy entire fleets before, but he had never seen anything like what Morrison was about to unleash. All human ships, this is Admiral Morrison, came the transmission across the fleet. What you are about to witness will end this war forever. Record everything. The galaxy needs to understand what happens when humanity is pushed too far. Doctor, Elena Rodriguez worked in the Weapons Control Center deep inside the Terra's Wrath. Around her, machines that had taken 50 years to build hummed with power beyond imagination. Quantum field generators that could rewrite the laws of physics. Nanite factories that could produce billions of microscopic machines in seconds. All systems are online, Elena reported to Morrison. Quantum cascade weapons are charged. Nanite. Deployment systems are ready. Matter reorganization arrays are standing by. Morrison looked out at the approaching alien fleet. Somewhere among those ships were the beings who had ordered the murder of 500,000 humans at New Denver. Somewhere were the commanders who had laughed when human children died. Today they would answer for those crimes. This is Admiral Morrison to the alien fleet. He broadcast on all frequencies. You were given a choice at the Galactic Council. You chose to murder our people instead of making peace. You were warned that further attacks would bring complete retaliation. You attacked anyway. The alien fleet continued to advance, weapons charging, shields at maximum power. They had never faced anything like the Terra's Wrath before, but they thought numbers would save them. I am broadcasting to the entire galaxy, Morrison continued. Let every species hear this message. This is what happens when you threaten human lives. This is the price of trying to exterminate our people. Zrath opened a channel to Morrison's ship. Human fool, you face the greatest fleet ever assembled. Surrender now, and we might let some of your species live as slaves. Morrison's voice was cold as space itself. You were given a choice. You chose extinction. The Terra's Wrath began to glow. Energy fields that existed in dimensions beyond normal space surrounded the massive ship. Reality itself seemed to bend around Morrison's vessel as weapons beyond. Alien understanding came online. Beginning nanite deployment, Dr. Rodriguez announced. Target all enemy vessels and equipment. The attack began not with explosions or energy beams, but with something far more terrifying. Clouds of microscopic machines poured out of the Terra's Wrath like invisible death. Each nanite was smaller than an atom, designed to consume specific types of alien technology. The nanites reached the alien fleet in seconds. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then alien commanders began to notice small problems. Shield generators flickering, weapon systems losing power, computer displays showing error messages. What's happening to our ships? The Altarian commander. demanded over the communication channels. "Our systems are failing across the entire fleet." Captain Steve Turner watched from his monitoring position as the alien fleet began to die. It was not like the quick destruction of other battles. This was slow, methodical, complete. The nanites were taking apart every alien ship, piece by piece, molecule by molecule. "My weapons are offline," came a panicked transmission from a Rigelian ship. "All my equipment is dissolving. The hull is starting to break apart." Dr. Kevin Hayes, now serving as Morrison's science officer, explained what was happening to the human fleet. "The nanites are programmed to consume only alien technology. They reproduce by using the metal and energy systems of enemy ships. Each nanite creates 10 more before it finishes its work." Within an hour, the largest fleet in galactic history was becoming clouds of atoms spreading through space. 3,000 ships carrying millions of alien soldiers simply ceased to exist. The nanites consumed everything: hulls, weapons, life, support systems, even the aliens themselves. Supreme Commander Zrath watched his flagship dissolve around him. The deck plates turned to dust under his feet. The walls became streams of particles flowing away into space. In his final moments, he understood that humanity had never been the primitive species he thought they were. "This is impossible," Zrath whispered as his own body began to break apart at the molecular level. "We are the masters of the galaxy. We are older. We are stronger." Admiral Morrison's voice reached him through the failing communication systems. "Age does not make you wise. Being old does not give you the right to murder children. Today, you learn the price of evil." The destruction was complete within 3 hours. Where the greatest fleet in galactic history had existed, there was now only empty space and slowly expanding clouds of particles. Not a single alien ship survived. Not a single alien soldier lived to tell what they had seen. Colonel Rick Davis monitored communications across the galaxy as news of the battle spread. What he heard was the sound of civilizations surrendering. "This is the Zephyrian homeworld requesting immediate peace negotiations," came one transmission. "We offer our complete surrender and any reparations humanity demands." "This is the Altarian Empire," came another. "We formally withdraw from all hostile actions against humanity. We request mercy." President Maria Santos addressed the galaxy from the Oval Office, her words broadcast to every inhabited world. "Today, the species of this galaxy learned what happens when you threaten human lives. We offered peace. You chose war. We offered friendship. You chose genocide." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "The war is over. Any species that wishes peace with humanity need only ask. But remember this lesson well. We will defend our people with whatever force is necessary, attack Earth's children again, and face annihilation." Senator Peter Collins delivered humanity's terms to what remained of the Galactic Council. Complete withdrawal from all former human territories, massive reparations for the destroyed colonies, recognition of humanity as the dominant military power in the galaxy. Every remaining species agreed immediately. Captain Nancy Brooks established the first human peacekeeping station in former Zephyrian space. Where once alien fleets had planned the extinction of humanity, human ships now enforced a peace that would last for generations. Dr. Michelle Park returned to New Denver to help rebuild the colony. Where 500,000 humans had died, new cities would rise. Where alien hatred had tried to destroy human dreams, human determination would create something beautiful. The galaxy entered a new age, an age where the small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system had proven that sometimes the youngest species could teach the oldest ones about the true meaning of power. Humanity had asked for peace and been given war. They had offered friendship and received hatred. They had shown mercy and been repaid with genocide. Now the galaxy knew the price of those mistakes. and that price was the end of everything they had built over thousands of years. The lesson was simple: do not threaten humanity's children. Do not test humanity's patience. Do not mistake human kindness for human weakness, because when humanity finally stopped talking and started fighting, even the stars themselves would tremble. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in its 1,000-year history. Representatives from 50 species sat in the Great Chamber, but today their faces showed fear instead of pride. The reports coming in from across the galaxy told a story that none of them wanted to believe. Ambassador Krell of the Zephyrians stood at the center of the chamber, his silver scales dull with stress. "The humans have destroyed 60% of our naval forces in 72 hours, he announced, his voice shaking. "Their weapons are beyond anything we have ever seen." Senator Peter Collins sat in the human section, watching the alien delegates with cold eyes. 3 weeks ago, these same beings had laughed at Admiral Morrison's warning. They had called humans primitive animals. Now they were begging for mercy. "The Proxima Centauri fortress is gone," Krell continued. 500 years of construction, wiped out in 17 minutes. Our shipyards at Vega, destroyed. Our supply depots, our communication networks, everything we built over centuries, all turning to dust. The Altarian Emperor, whose stone-like body usually radiated confidence, shifted nervously on his platform. "How is this possible? Our intelligence services detected no unusual human military buildup. Where did these ships come from?" Dr. Michelle Park, now serving as Earth's scientific advisor, stood up to address the council. She had survived the New Denver massacre by hiding in a basement for 12 hours. Now she spoke for all the human children who had died there. "You want to know where our ships came from?" Michelle asked, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. "We built them while you were planning our extinction. For 50 years, we prepared for the day when talking would no longer work." The Vegan Trade Federation representative, his blue skin pale with worry, leaned forward. "Dr. Park, surely there is room for negotiation. The Federation has always maintained neutral relations with humanity." Michelle's laugh was bitter. "Neutral? Your ships carried Zephyrian troops to our colonies. Your weapons factories supplied the ammunition that killed our children. You call that neutral?" Captain Steve Turner received orders from Earth Command, while his ship drifted near the ruins of what had been the Altarian Third Fleet. 24 hours ago, 300 enemy ships had controlled this region of space. Now there was nothing but glowing debris. "All ships, this is Earth Command," the message said. "Intelligence indicates massive enemy fleet gathering at Rigel. All units are to prepare for potential counterattack. Estimated enemy strength: 3,000 ships from 13 species." Steve looked at his tactical display. 3,000 ships. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Even with their advanced weapons, the humans would be badly outnumbered. "Signal the fleet," Steve told his communications officer. "Ask for volunteers to stay and monitor alien movements. The rest can withdraw to defensive positions." Every ship in his squadron volunteered to stay. Steve was not surprised. After New Denver, every human in space wanted to finish this war. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Supreme Commander Zrath stood before the Combined War Council. Representatives from 12 other species sat around the table, their faces grim. Humans had hit them hard, but they were not finished yet. "The humans have powerful weapons," Zrath admitted, "but they have only revealed small fleets so far. Our intelligence suggests they cannot have more than 200 ships total. We are gathering 3,000. The Rigelian admiral, a creature that looked like a giant insect, clicked his mandibles nervously. "Commander, their weapons destroyed. The Proxima Fortress in minutes. What makes you think numbers will matter?" Zrath's yellow eyes gleamed with hatred. "Because they are still just humans. They got lucky with a few surprise attacks. When we bring our full strength against them, they will break like any other inferior species." The Andromedan representative, speaking through a translation device, expressed doubt. Perhaps we should consider the human peace terms. Complete, withdrawal from former human territory, and reparations for destroyed colonies. It is harsh, but we could survive it. Zrath slammed his clawed hand on the table. Never! We will not bow to animals who learned to use starships yesterday. We are the masters of this galaxy. The humans will learn their place, or they will die. Captain Nancy Brooks continued monitoring alien communications from her hidden position, at the edge of Rigel space. What she heard made her realize just how desperate the enemy had become. "This is Observer to Earth Command," she transmitted. "The aliens are stripping defensive fleets from their home systems. They're bringing ships that were protecting their own planets. This is everything they have left." The message reached President Maria Santos within hours. She sat in the Situation Room with her top advisors, studying star charts that showed the massive alien buildup at Rigel. "They're betting everything on one attack," General Chris Morgan explained. "If we can defeat this fleet, they won't have anything left to fight with." Admiral Amy Foster pointed to another section of the star chart. "But if they break through our defenses, they could reach Earth in 48 hours. This is their final gamble." Maria looked around the table at her advisors. "What do our fleet commanders recommend?" "Admiral Morrison wants to meet them head-on with everything we have," Amy replied. "Captain Wright suggests we use the Terra's wrath to break their formation, then hit them with conventional forces." "And Dr. Rodriguez?" Amy smiled grimly. "She says to let them come. The Terra's wrath was designed for exactly this situation." Colonel Rick Davis burst into the room with an urgent message. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from across alien space. Some species are trying to withdraw from the coalition. The Andromedans just declared neutrality. 3 other minor powers are requesting peace talks." Maria nodded. "Fear is spreading through their ranks. They're starting to realize what they're really fighting." Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked in her laboratory deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, making final preparations for humanity's ultimate weapon. The Terra's Wrath was more than just a ship. It was a mobile platform for weapons that could remake reality itself. "Quantum field generators are online," her assistant reported. "Nanite production facilities are at full capacity. The Terra's Wrath is ready for deployment." Elena looked at the display screens that showed her creation. 50 years of work had gone into this project. Weapons based on physics that the galaxy had never discovered. Today, she would find out if her theories were correct. "Signal Admiral Morrison," Elena said. "Tell him his secret weapon is ready." Back in the Galactic Council chamber, panic was spreading. Species that had ruled star systems for thousands of years were discovering that age did not guarantee wisdom. "We must stop this madness," the Centaurian delegate pleaded. "The humans have made their point. They are stronger than we thought. Let us make peace before more die." Ambassador Krell stood up, his voice filled with rage. "There will be no peace until the humans are extinct. We have gathered the greatest fleet in galactic history. 3,000 ships will crush them once and for all." Senator Peter Collins finally spoke. "Ambassador Krell, you still don't understand what you're fighting. You think this is about ships and weapons. It's not. This is about what happens when you murder our children." He stood and faced the entire council. 20 years ago, we offered you friendship. 10 years ago, we offered you partnership. 3 weeks ago, Admiral Morrison offered you peace. You chose genocide instead." Peter's voice grew cold. "Now you will face the consequences of that choice. The combined fleet you're so proud of, it won't be enough. Nothing you have will be enough." Krell hissed in anger. "We shall see, human, when your worlds burn, when your species is extinct. We shall see who was right." Peter smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Yes, Ambassador, we shall see." Across the galaxy, the greatest military fleet ever assembled moved toward human space. 3,000 ships carrying the hopes and fears of 13 species. They believed that numbers would save them. They were about to discover that sometimes One human ship was worth more than 3,000 alien ones. Captain Danny Wright stood on the bridge of the UNS Retribution, looking out at something impossible. The ship around him was bigger than anything humans had ever built before. It was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons that could crack planets in half. 3 days had passed since New Denver fell. 3 days since 500,000 humans died screaming. Now it was time for answers. "Target acquired, Captain," Lieutenant Claire Johnson reported from her station. "Proxima Centauri Fortress is directly ahead. Sensor count shows 1,200 enemy ships defending the station." Danny nodded. The Zephyrian Fortress at Proxima Centauri was their strongest military base. Built inside a massive asteroid, it had never been attacked in 500 years. The aliens thought it was impossible to destroy. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Signal, though. Fleet," Danny ordered. "All ships report ready status." Around the Retribution, 40 more human ships moved through space like silent ghosts. Each one was bigger than the largest alien battleship. Each one carried weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. Dr. Kevin Hayes worked in the weapon control center deep inside the Retribution. He had escaped from New Denver on one of the last transport ships. Now he was about to use the weapons he had spent 20 years designing. Weapons that could break matter apart at the level of atoms. "Quantum cascade generators are online," Kevin reported. "All targeting systems show green. We have clean shots on the main fortress and the defending fleet." Danny looked at the tactical display. 1,000 Zephyrian ships spread out around the asteroid fortress like a metal cloud. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a city. Together they could glass an entire planet. It would not be enough. "All ships. This is Captain Wright," Danny said into his communicator. "Remember what they did to our people. Remember New Denver. Remember the children. Fire at will." The space around Proxima Centauri lit up like a new star being born. The human ships fired weapons that turned matter into energy, beams that could cut through anything, missiles that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The Zephyrian fleet simply vanished. One moment, there were 1,200 ships. The next moment, there were glowing clouds of atoms spreading through space. Admiral Peter Collins watched the battle from the command ship UNS Terra's Might. He had been a diplomat before the war started. He had tried to make peace with the aliens for 15 years. Now he commanded humanity's revenge fleet. "Fortress shields are down," his weapons officer reported. "Direct hit on the main reactor. The asteroid is breaking apart." Peter watched through the view screen as the Zephyrian fortress died. The asteroid that had housed 50,000 alien soldiers cracked down the middle. Atmosphere rushed out in giant geysers of frozen air. Emergency lights flickered and went dark. In 17 minutes, the strongest alien military base in the galaxy became floating debris. "Signal Earth Command," Peter said. "Proxima Centauri Fortress has been eliminated. No survivors detected. Moving to secondary targets." Captain Lisa Bennett commanded the UNS Judgment, leading a smaller group of ships toward the Altarian supply depot at Wolf 359. Her orders were simple: destroy everything that could help the enemy war effort. The Altarians had been Zephyria's strongest allies. They had cheered when New Denver burned. They had offered to help exterminate the human race. Now they would pay the price for that choice. "Enemy depot is heavily defended," her tactical officer reported. 300 ships plus orbital defense platforms." Lisa smiled without humor. 300 ships. They still don't understand what they're fighting. The human ships dropped out of hyperspace like avenging angels. The Altarian defenders had time to send one distress signal before they died. The supply depot, which had fed the alien war machine for 20 years, became an expanding cloud of wreckage in under an hour. Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat in the command center on Earth, watching tactical displays that showed the progress of humanity's hidden fleets. Red dots marked alien positions. As she watched, the red dots disappeared one by one. Fleet 7 reports successful engagement at Vega, her aide announced. Enemy shipyard completely destroyed. Fleet 12 has eliminated the ammunition depot at Tau Ceti. Fleet 15 destroyed the communication hub at Alpha Centauri. Elena nodded. This was going exactly as planned. For 50 years, humanity had been building these fleets in secret. Ships constructed in the darkness between stars, hidden from alien sensors. Weapons that used physics the galaxy had never discovered. General Chris Morgan received reports from across human space. Every major alien military installation within 100 light-years was under attack. The Zephyrian coalition was being torn apart piece by piece. Sir, Colonel Rick Davis said, reading from a datapad. Initial damage assessment shows enemy naval capacity reduced by 60% in the first 72 hours. Their main supply lines are completely cut. Communication between enemy fleets has been severed. Chris looked at the strategic map. Green markers showed human fleet positions. Red markers showed what was left of the alien forces. There was a lot more green than red now. What about civilian casualties on their side? Chris asked. Minimal, sir. Our forces are targeting only military installations and warships. No attacks on alien civilian populations. Chris nodded. Humanity would not become the monsters that their enemies were. They would destroy the alien war machine, but they would not murder children in their beds. Captain Nancy Brooks commanded the reconnaissance ship UNS Observer, monitoring alien communications from the edge of Zephyrian space. What she heard made her blood run cold. This is Observer to all human commands, she broadcast on emergency channels. Enemy communications indicate massive fleet buildup in the Rigel system. Multiple species are combining their remaining forces. Estimate over 3,000 ships gathering for counterattack. The news reached Earth within hours. The aliens were not surrendering. They were gathering every ship they had left for one final assault on humanity. President Maria Santos read the intelligence reports in her office. 3,000 alien ships against maybe 200 human vessels. Even with superior technology, those were dangerous odds. They're planning to hit us with everything they have, Admiral Amy Foster explained. Every species in the coalition is contributing ships. They think if they can destroy our fleets, they can still win this war. Maria stood and walked to her window. Outside, the people of Earth went about their daily lives, most of them unaware that the greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin. Do we have enough ships to stop them? Maria asked. Amy smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Ma'am, they still don't understand what humanity is capable of. They've seen our conventional fleets. They haven't seen our superweapons yet. Superweapons? The Terra's Wrath project, ma'am. Dr. Rodriguez has been working on it for 30 years. We've never had to use it before. Maria turned back to Amy. What exactly is the Terra's Wrath? A single ship that can destroy entire fleets by itself. It carries weapons that can remake matter at the quantum level. If the aliens want to bring 3,000 ships against us, we'll show them what one human ship can do. Across the galaxy, alien species that had laughed at humanity's warning began to understand their mistake. The humans were not the weak, primitive species they had thought. They were something far more dangerous. The Zephyrian coalition had wanted to exterminate humanity. Now they faced extermination themselves. And deep in human space, weapons beyond their nightmares prepared for the final battle. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their ships. It was their refusal to let evil go unpunished. 3 weeks after Admiral Morrison's warning to the Galactic Council, Commander Ryan Parker stood on the command deck of New Denver's defense station. The human colony on Kepler 442b had been peaceful for 15 years. 2.5 million people lived here, farming the rich soil and raising their children under alien stars. Ryan looked out at the morning sky through the station's main window. 3 suns painted the horizon in colors of gold and purple. It should have been beautiful. Instead, his sensors showed something terrible approaching. Commander, Lieutenant Nancy Brooks called from her station. Long-range scans are picking up massive energy signatures, at least 300 ships coming out of hyperspace. Ryan's stomach went cold. 300 ships meant only one thing. This was not a raid or a small attack. This was an invasion, force meant to kill everyone on the planet. Sound the evacuation alarm, Ryan ordered. Get every civilian transport in the air. Emergency broadcast to all settlements. This is not a drill. The defense station shook as the first enemy ships entered the atmosphere. Ryan watched through his window as Zephyrian fighters screamed overhead, their silver hulls gleaming in the triple sunlight. Behind them came larger ships, cruisers, and destroyers that could level entire cities. Captain Danny Wright commanded. The colony's small defense fleet, 12 ships against 300. He knew the math was impossible, but he also knew his job. Keep the enemy busy while the civilians escaped. All ships, this is Wright. His voice came over the comm system. We hold them here. Every minute we buy saves 1,000 lives. Ryan watched the battle begin in the sky above New Denver. Human fighters, small and fast, darted between the massive alien ships like angry insects. They scored hits, but there were too many enemies. One by one, the human ships began to fall. On the ground, the evacuation was chaos. Dr. Michelle Park ran through the streets of the capital city, helping load injured civilians onto transport ships. She was a scientist, not a soldier, but today everyone had to fight for survival. The children first, she shouted over the noise of engines and explosions. Get the schools evacuated now. Above them, a Zephyrian cruiser opened fire on a hospital. The building disappeared in a ball of fire. Dr. Park watched in horror as the flames reached into the sky. There had been 3,000 patients in that hospital. Now there was nothing but smoke and ash. This was not war. This was murder. Back on the defense station, Ryan received reports from across the planet. The news got worse every minute. The aliens were not targeting military bases or government buildings. They were hitting schools, hospitals, refugee centers, anywhere that civilians might gather. Sir, Lieutenant Brooks said, her voice shaking. They just hit the children's evacuation center in Sector 7. Direct orbital bombardment. No survivors. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment. 5,000 children had been waiting there for transport ships. Now they were gone. He opened his eyes and his face was hard as stone. Signal all defense positions, he said. We are not surrendering. We hold this station until every civilian is off this planet. Captain Steve Turner brought his ship, the merchant vessel Lucky Star, down through the atmosphere to pick up refugees. His cargo hold was not designed for people, but today it would have to work. He managed to load 200 civilians before enemy fighters found him. The Lucky Star was not a warship. Steve had to run, climbing back toward space with Zephyrian, fighters chasing him. Laser fire burned past his ship as he pushed the engines beyond their limits. Behind him, he could see other civilian ships trying to escape. Not all of them made it. General Chris Morgan received the first reports of the attack while he was in a meeting on Earth. His aide, Colonel Rick Davis, burst into the room with a data pad showing the situation at New Denver. General, you need to see this immediately, Rick said. It's a full-scale assault. They're targeting civilians deliberately. Chris looked at the data and felt his blood turn to ice. The Zephyrians were not trying to capture New Denver. They were trying to exterminate every human on the planet. This was genocide. Get me President Santos on priority channel, Chris ordered, and activate Protocol 7. All fleet commanders need to know what's happening here. On New Denver, the battle was almost over. Captain Wright's fleet was down to 3 ships. The defense station was taking heavy fire. Commander Ryan Parker knew they had maybe 1 hour before the station fell. Final count on civilian evacuations, he called to his crew. 2,300,000 evacuated, came the reply. But there are still 200,000 people on the ground. The transport ships can't get through the enemy fighters. Ryan made a decision that would haunt him forever. Signal the remaining transports. Tell them to leave. We'll hold the station as long as we can, but they need to get the survivors out of here. Dr. Kevin Hayes was among the civilians still trapped on the surface. He had been working to evacuate his research lab when the attack began. Now he hid in a basement with 50 other people while alien soldiers marched through the streets above. Through a small window, Kevin could see what the Zephyrians were doing to his city. They were not just destroying buildings. They were hunting down individual humans, shooting anyone they found. Men, women, children. It did not matter to them. They're not taking prisoners, Kevin whispered to the woman next to him. They're killing everyone. The defense station's shields finally failed after 6 hours of constant bombardment. Commander Ryan Parker gathered his remaining crew in the command center. Outside, Zephyrian ships moved closer for the final attack. "This is Commander Parker to any human forces listening," he said into his communicator. "New Denver has fallen. The enemy is not interested in surrender or capture. They are exterminating everyone they find. Tell Earth what happened here. Tell them we held the line as long as we could." The station exploded in a ball of light visible from orbit. Ryan Parker and his crew died, but their message reached Earth within hours. President Maria Santos sat in the Oval Office reading the reports from New Denver. 2.5 million people lived on that planet when the day began. Only 2 million made it off alive. 500,000 humans had been murdered in a single day. Admiral Amy Foster knocked on the president's door. "Ma'am, we have confirmation. The attack on New Denver was not a military operation. It was deliberate genocide. They targeted hospitals, schools, refugee centers." Maria looked up from the reports. Her face was pale, but her eyes were hard. "How long until our hidden fleets are ready?" "The first wave can be deployed in 72 hours, Amy replied. "But ma'am, once we use those weapons, there's no going back. The galaxy will know what we're really capable of." Maria stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the lights of Washington glowed in the darkness. Somewhere among those lights were families who had just lost everything at New Denver. Somewhere were children who would never see their parents again. "They crossed the line," Maria said quietly. "They wanted to exterminate us. Now they're going to learn what happens when you try to kill humanity." She turned back to Amy. "Signal. General Morgan. Authorization code Alpha Omega 7. Begin deployment of all hidden assets." "Yes, ma'am," Amy said. "What are our targets?" Maria's voice was cold as winter. "All of them." Across the galaxy, alien intelligence services detected strange energy signatures coming from human space. Something big was moving in the darkness between the stars. Something that had been hidden until now. The Zephyrians had gotten their war. Now, they would get humanity's answer. Admiral Jake Morrison walked into the Great Hall of the Galactic Council with heavy steps. His blue uniform was clean and pressed, but his face showed the weight of 20 years of war. Behind him walked 2 other humans, Captain Lisa Bennett and Dr. Elena Rodriguez. The 3 humans looked small compared to the massive alien beings that filled the chamber. The hall was huge, big enough to hold 1,000 beings from across the galaxy. Strange creatures with many arms, others with scales that glowed in the dim light, and some that floated in tanks of green liquid. All of them looked down at the humans with cold eyes. Most had fought against Earth for 2 decades. Today, they would hear something new. Morrison stepped up to the speaking platform. The room grew quiet. Even the Zephyrian delegates, who looked like giant lizards with silver skin, stopped their whispering. Ambassador Krell, their leader, watched Morrison with yellow eyes that showed no emotion. "Members of the Galactic Council," Morrison began, his voice clear and strong. "I come before you today not as a beggar asking for mercy. I come as the voice of humanity, speaking our final words on this matter." The Altarian Emperor, a being made of what looked like living stone, leaned forward. His deep voice rumbled through the chamber. You dare make demands of us, human? Your kind has existed for mere moments compared to our ancient civilizations. Morrison did not look away. 20 years ago, your coalition claimed that human colonies violated old agreements. We asked to see these agreements. You refused. We offered to move our people. You attacked instead. We tried to make peace. You chose war. Captain Bennett stood behind Morrison, watching the alien faces. She had seen too many human colonies burned, too many children killed by coalition forces. Her hands stayed steady at her sides, but her jaw was tight with anger. The New Geneva colony, Morrison continued. 4 million humans lived there in peace. Your forces bombed it from space. The survivors begged for mercy. You killed them anyway. Some of the smaller alien species shifted uncomfortably. They remembered New Geneva. The attack had been brutal, even by coalition standards. Paradise Valley on Kepler 438b, Morrison's voice grew harder. 500,000 farmers and their families. You said they were military targets. Children. Admiral Krell, you murdered children who were picking flowers in fields. Ambassador Krell's scaled lips pulled back, showing sharp teeth. Weak species do not deserve the stars, human. Your people are soft. You will learn to serve your betters, or you will die. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward slightly. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes were sharp and cold. In her hand was a small device that looked like a simple tablet. Inside that device were plans that could change everything, plans that the galaxy did not know existed. We have tried peace for 20 years, Morrison said. We have offered to share our technology. We have given medical aid to your people during plagues. We have fed your hungry worlds during famines. This is how you repay our kindness. The Vegan Trade Federation representative, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, spoke up. The coalition has legitimate concerns about human expansion. Your species breeds too quickly and takes too many worlds. Morrison turned to face the Trade Federation section. We have colonized empty worlds, dead rocks that you ignored for thousands of years. We brought life to them. We made gardens where nothing grew before. You take what is ours by right of age, the Altarian Emperor said. We are older. We were here first. Age does not give you the right to murder, Morrison replied. Being old does not make you wise. You have proven this with 20 years of pointless killing. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Alien delegates shouted in dozens of languages. Some demanded that the humans be arrested immediately. Others called for Earth itself to be glassed from orbit. Through it all, Morrison stood still and calm. Captain Bennett had heard enough threats to last several lifetimes. She remembered the message from Commander Ryan Parker just 3 days ago. His colony was under attack. His people were dying. The coalition was planning something big, something that would end the human race forever. When the noise died down, Morrison spoke again. Today, I bring you humanity's final message to this council. We are done asking for peace. We are done begging for your mercy. We are done pretending that you care about justice. He paused and looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every major delegation. This is our last warning to all of you. Any further attacks on human colonies, human ships, or human citizens will be met with complete and total retaliation. Ambassador Krell laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You threaten us? You pathetic creatures with your tiny fleets and primitive weapons? We have 1,000 ships for every one of yours. Morrison smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. You count our visible ships, Ambassador. You have never seen our hidden ones. Dr. Rodriguez touched her tablet. Far away, on Earth and in the darkness between stars, signals began to move. Machines that had waited in silence for 50 years started to wake up. Deep under Earth's oceans, construction that had never stopped began its final phase. We have shown restraint because we believed in peace, Morrison continued. We have held back our true strength because we hoped you would see reason. You have mistaken our mercy for weakness. That mistake will cost you everything." The Galactic Council erupted again. This time the anger was mixed with something else: fear. Some of the older species remembered rumors about human weapons that had never been seen, stories that had been dismissed as lies. "You cannot threaten this council," the Altarian Emperor roared. "We are the masters of this galaxy. You are nothing but animals who learn to use tools." Morrison's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Animals, you say? Yes, we are animals. And when you corner an animal, when you threaten its young, when you leave it no choice but fight or die—" He paused. "Then you learn what kind of animal you have been fighting." Captain Bennett watched the alien faces carefully. Most still showed anger and contempt. But a few, the oldest and wisest species, began to look worried. They had lived long enough to know that the most dangerous enemies were the ones who stayed calm when threatened. "This is your last chance," Morrison said. "Stop your attacks, leave our people alone, respect our right to exist in peace. Do this, and humanity will forgive the past 20 years of war." Ambassador Krell stood up to his full height, towering over the human delegation. "And if we refuse?" Morrison looked up at the giant alien without fear. "Then you will discover that humans are very good at learning from their enemies. We have studied your tactics for 20 years. We know your weaknesses. We have prepared for this moment." He turned to address the entire council one last time. "Choose wisely. This warning will not be repeated. Attack us again and face annihilation." The three humans turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind them, the greatest powers in the galaxy began to argue about what they had just heard. Most dismissed it as the desperate bluff of a dying species. A few wondered if they had just made a terrible mistake. Time would tell who was right.